In the last decades of the 16th century, religious confrontation continued between Protestant Elizabethan England and Spain, the most powerful constituent monarchy in Europe and one of the main supporters of the Catholic Counter-Reformation. By the mid-1580s, the confrontation was moving steadily toward open war. While religion was at the root of the brewing war, it was far from its only cause. English privateers, most famously Francis Drake, had repeatedly attacked Spanish shipping and possessions. And in 1585, Elizabeth openly committed English troops to assist the Dutch rebels fighting Spanish rule in the Netherlands. For King Philip II of Spain, England had become an active strategic enemy. For many years, Catholic Europe saw Mary Stuart, the former Queen of Scots, as an alternative to Queen Elizabeth. Mary was Elizabeth's cousin and the descendant of King Henry VII through his daughter Margaret Tudor. Because the Catholic Church did not recognize King Henry VIII's marriage to Anne Boleyn as valid, many Catholics regarded their daughter Elizabeth as illegitimate. Mary Stuart's son, King James VI of Scotland, converted to the Scottish Protestant Church, dashing Mary's hope that the House of Stuart would naturally restore the old Catholic faith in England. On the 16th of June 1586, Mary bequeathed her English dynastic rights to King Philip II of Spain. This gave King Philip an additional argument for intervening in English affairs, beyond religious and strategic ones. After Mary Stuart's conviction for treason in the Babington plot, she was executed at Fotheringhay Castle on the 8th of February 1587. The Catholic alternative to Queen Elizabeth was dead. But the threat from Spain did not disappear. The reasons that motivated King Philip to attack England were numerous. He wanted to stop English military assistance to the Dutch rebels. He wanted to end English attacks on Spanish maritime commerce and colonial possessions. He wanted to remove the English Protestant government, which had become one of Spain's most troublesome enemies, and restore Catholicism in England. And King Philip authorized the enormous undertaking that became known to history as the Spanish Armada. According to the plan, the huge fleet was to sail from Spain across the English Channel. It would establish contact with the forces of Alexander Farnese, Duke of Parma, Philip's brilliant commander in the Spanish Netherlands. Parma's army would then cross the Channel under the protection of the Armada and land in England. But even before the armies and fleets entered into battle, a secret war was already underway. This spy war was being fought with intercepted letters, merchants, informers, secret codes, and paid spies. It was the war of Francis Walsingham's spy network against the Spanish Armada. Walsingham was Queen Elizabeth's Secretary of State and the head of the intelligence service. Beside him stood another giant of the Elizabethan Privy Council, William Cecil, Lord High Treasurer and the curator of the intelligence service. Meanwhile, Spain was waging its own intelligence war. One of Walsingham's most formidable opponents was Bernardino de Mendoza. Soldier, diplomat, and intelligence officer, Mendoza had served as King Philip II's ambassador in London. But he went far beyond conventional diplomacy. Mendoza became involved with English Catholic conspirators and communicated with opponents of Elizabeth's government. His involvement in the Throckmorton plot contributed to his expulsion from England in January 1584. King Philip appointed him as the Spanish ambassador to France. Inside the English embassy, Mendoza found an extraordinary source. The English ambassador to France was Edward Stafford, who, by 1587, evidence indicates, was secretly providing information to Spain. Stafford was vulnerable. He had accumulated severe gambling debts and suffered persistent financial difficulties. Mendoza exploited this vulnerability and purchased classified information from Stafford. But Walsingham was watching him. the spymaster's agents intercepted communications and gathered evidence concerning Stafford's activities. However, Stafford was never prosecuted for treason. Stafford possessed influential connections, particularly through the William Cecil political network, and the evidence surrounding his dealings was politically sensitive. Walsingham could observe, contain, and manipulate the compromised ambassador to convey distorted information to Mendoza. The intelligence war was therefore becoming a hall of mirrors. In addition to Stafford, Mendoza received important information from Privy Council member James Croft. Croft had become a Spanish agent during Mendoza's tenure as Spanish ambassador in London. He received a Spanish pension and sympathized with Spanish aims throughout the period of the Spanish Armada. In 1588, after James Croft established an unauthorized personal relationship with Alexander Farnese, he was arrested and imprisoned. Walsingham's spies were penetrating Spain's invasion preparations. English merchants in Spain could observe harbors, warehouses, troop movements, and ship construction without necessarily attracting immediate suspicion. They were perfect spies. Among the names associated with the world of English merchant spies was Roger Bodenham, or Bowdenham, an English Catholic merchant and seafarer connected with Spain. Because of his Catholic faith and deep roots in Spain, he had the trust of the Spanish authorities, allowing him to obtain inside information that he sent to Walsingham and Cecil in his detailed reports on the preparations for the Spanish Armada. Spain itself was only half of the invasion plan. The Armada could not conquer England alone. Its crucial mission was to secure a channel long enough for Alexander Farnese's army in the Spanish Netherlands to cross into England. Intelligence from the Spanish Netherlands was as important to Walsingham as information from Spain. One of the English intelligence agents associated with the Spanish Netherlands network appears in intelligence records under the name or cipher Wykenherd. The spy was a Flemish merchant and food supplier to Alexander Farnese's army. Armies reveal themselves through logistics. Wykenherd's ability to penetrate the Spanish troops' supply system allowed him to assess their numbers and combat readiness and to report this information to London. But Walsingham possessed an even more extraordinary source. His real name was Anthony Standen. His intelligence alias was Pompeo Pellegrini. Standen was the English Catholic émigré with a wide range of European contacts. In the deeply religious political world of the 16th century, Catholic affiliation could open many doors. Standen became one of Walsingham's most valuable sources concerning Spanish preparations for the Spanish Armada. He developed close contacts with Giovanni Figliazzi, the Tuscan ambassador at the Spanish court. Figliazzi, who enjoyed great favor at the court of King Philip, provided Standen with information on the elite political context concerning Spanish foreign policy objectives and the court's domestic affairs. In addition, Standen recruited a Flemish spy operating in Spain. This spy's brother served as personal secretary to the Marquis of Santa Cruz, the Grand Admiral of the Spanish Navy, appointed commander of the Spanish Armada. This provided Standen with direct, unfiltered access to the Admiral's private naval office and strategic planning documents. Suspicious fact. An experienced sailor and admiral with many victories, the Marquis of Santa Cruz died suddenly a few months before the departure of the Spanish Armada. The commander of the Spanish Armada was appointed the inexperienced Alonso de Guzman, Duke of Medina Sidonia. In 1587 and 1588, Walsingham received from Standen copies of reports on the state of the Spanish Armada that had been sent to King Philip II. In the spring of 1587, Francis Drake launched a preemptive strike against the Spanish Armada fleet at Cadiz, the so-called singeing the King of Spain's beard. The attack was devastating. English ships entered the harbour and destroyed or captured numerous vessels and supplies intended for the Spanish Armada. The damage caused by the English delayed Spanish preparations for the Armada. Walsingham's spy network helped uncover Spanish supply depots, the location of ships being prepared, and the defensive fortifications of Cadiz. But King Philip II would not abandon the enterprise. In late May 1588, the Spanish Armada finally sailed. Through the efforts of the spy network, Walsingham knew the Spanish Armada's location daily and transmitted information to the British Naval Command. Accordingly, English naval captains also knew the locations of Spanish naval forces and the vulnerabilities of Spanish galleons, which the Walsingham intelligence network had warned about in advance. The defeat of the Spanish Armada, apart from the skillful attacks of English naval captains armed with information received from Walsingham, was the result of the interaction of several factors, such as Spanish logistical difficulties, the enormous challenge of coordinating the Armada with Parma's army, Dutch control of crucial coastal waters, and the brutal Atlantic weather encountered by the Armada during the retreat. The defeat of the Armada became one of the defining events of Queen Elizabeth's reign. But before the first cannon opened fire, another battle had already been fought, the battle for information. Francis Walsingham and English intelligence played a decisive role in the information phase of preparations to repel the most serious threat to Elizabethan England.